It has been over a year since I've recorded a podcast episode, and I'm back. And I feel called to come back now because I decided to shut up. And that is what I'm noticing in a lot of communities, not just spiritual communities, and not just New Age, definitely those communities, but in general. People are speaking before they embody what they are teaching. Now, let me give you an analogy to help you understand. A professor teaches at a college, maybe finance, maybe psychology, or what have you. But outside of the classroom, they're not held to a high standard in terms of how they're living. They are there for a purpose, and that is to teach academically, correct? So we don't expect them to live a life of morality or integrity in the same way that we would expect a pastor or a guru or a leader of sorts to live in a higher standard of integrity, or someone who is spouting or regurgitating beliefs and philosophies and spirituality and religious ideas and concepts. Those people we expect to live at a higher standard. And this is no judgment on those who do not necessarily, but we're going to put on our discernment hat here. And that is what this episode is going to be about. We're going to touch on what it means to live embodied and why I think that many people are not living embodied. And what that turns out to be is you get a lot of regurgitated information. You get a lot of people spouting how to live, motivational talks, how to be, essentially. But they're not doing that themselves. And I had to shut up. And this is why it's been over a year since I recorded a podcast episode, is because I had to shut up and continue my healing journey and continue spiritual growth, and also bringing that into my physical life and integrating all of the knowledge and wisdom that I have gained over the course of my life in order to be in a place where I feel that now I can speak from a more embodied state than I have before. So guilty as charged, but we're going to dive in. Hi, welcome to You Are Limitless. I'm your host, Chico, or Madam Chico, and I'm so happy to be here today. I have been on this long hiatus, and I didn't even know if I was going to come back to record another episode because I just have not felt called to. And it also felt necessary for me to go silent and to go within myself and get things in my life in order to be able to speak. And so, I have a really powerful story. I don't feel that it's necessary to talk about it right now. If you want to hear about it, I think it's like episode 2 or 3. I have not even gone back to see what episode that's in. But go check it out because I have traveled through the depths of hell, my own suffering, as well as the suffering that many of us experience in childhood and growing up and not having adequate mentors, teachers, leaders, elders to guide us. And coming out of that, I finally realized, wait a minute, when you tap into your own divinity and you know viscerally that you are all encompassing of universal forces, because the universe is you, that shifts everything. You start moving differently. You start making different choices, not because you're forcing it, but because the power has now been ignited within you. We have many systems who and that are telling us that we need this next vacation, we need this medication, we need this next retreat. All these things we need, whenever really what we need, in my opinion, is to know thyself, is to sit with ourselves. And many people talk about know thyself, sure. But what does that actually mean? Okay. And what does it mean to live with integrity? Okay. Not the performative stuff, because a lot of what I've been seeing and realizing and understanding is a lot of it is very performative. People can perform integrity. People can perform ethics. People can perform even compassion. But when it's coming from a deeper part of yourself, there's no more negotiating with the outside world. There is no more trying to be chosen or find your place in the world. In reality, you just start to align to it. You start to, again, make different choices. And this is all what many don't want you to do, because otherwise, why would you need to listen to anybody? Why would you need to listen to me, for that matter? This is where, you start to, many people inadvertently create followers, because you are dealing with the disempowered population. People looking for a way out, people looking for the light, people looking for their divinity, people looking for answers, people looking for truth. And there are many people who believe that they have that. And maybe they do, but at the end of the day, no one can tell you what truth is. You have to be the one to discover that. And there's so much noise out there. AI slop, for example. If you get on YouTube and you look up motivational videos, you're going to find some AI slop, regurgitating things like Carl Jung and Alan Watts. And these videos, they may be using their voices, but it's AI. And I'm not anti-AI, but I am anti-relying on AI for your own divinity, for your own spark. And I do believe that it's a tool. And I'm not like, oh my God, AI is taking over. I think that's very fear-based. And that's where a lot of people who talk about AI in a negative way, they're very fear-based talking about it. Very scarcity mindset talking about it. Not understanding that we have a unlimited amount of resources. It's not finite. And so you're going to get a lot of, let's say, Alan Watts videos where they're using AI to replicate his voice and then saying things that he's never said. And this happens a lot with Carl Jung and all these different teachings. And I'm not saying all AI video is slop, but I am saying that part of why I'm getting back on here is to kind of counterbalance some of that slop, because I do believe that it's a way to hide behind the fact that one is not moving in integrity. So if you go back to what I was saying about these leaders and integrity, well, first, let me define integrity as I see it. And it's simply what you're doing alone, how you're moving alone, what your choices look like, what your habits look like, what your self-talk looks like. All of that matters more to me than what you're presenting to the public. Because if you are living in that state of grace within yourself, you don't really need to perform for the public. You don't really need to explain yourself. You don't really need to prove that you are some type of moralistic being, individual. You don't need to listen and to follow people. You don't. Now, you can listen to people and have them spark a knowing within yourself. They can give you the language that you may not have for what you've been feeling. But a lot of the times, words get replaced for embodiment. And they say that actions speak louder than words. That to me is very much the case. This is a very actionable reality. It's not based on what you're saying. However, what I will say about words is that your words to yourself, your inner dialogue, can create your reality 100%. This is not like some weird manifestation woo-woo shit where you're like, okay, if I tell myself over and over again that I'm abundant, I'm grateful and all this stuff. No. What happens whenever things get challenging? How are you talking to yourself then? Okay? Are you self-reflective? Are you in a state of actualized? These are the things that I believe is missing when it comes to leaders and teachers and gurus. We can even throw in shamans. All of these people who think they know, how are they living behind closed doors? This is why we hold them to a higher standard compared to, say, a professor or someone else. I was thinking in terms of, like, let's say, someone who has a finance degree. They are held to a certain type of standard in terms of financial integrity. Don't steal from your clients. Don't skim off the top of some money from a company, etc. Okay, there's a certain ethical standard that they are held to, or someone in the field of medicine or law, things of that nature. So look at it as that. Like, it's really interesting if you don't even need a microscope, but if you were to be a little bit more discerning and just watch how people are moving in their lives, and if that's not how you want to move, why listen to them? And this could be very interesting coming from anybody, but it's like, who gives me the authority to say that? Well, nobody. Nobody out there gives me the authority. This is me just sharing my experiences. So I may call it anecdotal. That's fine. But I'm telling you that when you wake up and you realize yourself, and that may require you to go silent, that may require you to travel alone, that may require you to take up a new profession, to look within your family structure. It may require you to do a lot of things that aren't broadcast to the world. And that's where your authority will come from, for yourself. And if you want to show other people, great, but embody it first. And that's the issue, is this lack of embodiment and a lack of self-integrity. That's what I see. So if I were to go back to my earlier podcast episodes, I would say that I was definitely embodied, but I was like in the early stages of embodiment. Let me just say that. After definitely several years later, in general, and over a year after my last episode came out, I would say that I am in a much more embodied state to help and guide other people. And I don't need to explain why, but over the course of this episode or the next episodes to come, it will become evident as I talk more of where I've been, what I've been doing, as examples for how you can do the self-inquiry without getting lost, without getting disempowered, and without going down these rabbit holes that are so unnecessary. And I'm more than happy to be there and help, because that feels like my calling. And I have been, in the past, negotiating with that calling, with this, who am I to, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, that has been what has been presented to me in so many different ways. So many different ways, down to the dream state. And there's just going to be so much powerful information that I have to give, that I have to offer, that I'm really excited to share. And so just be aware that at the end of the day, watch yourself if you are searching for something. You can't find it. You're trying to convince yourself of something. And you think you found it in another person, or you think you found it in another philosophical belief system, religious and or spiritual belief system, in some quote unquote leader. Just be aware that you're searching for something, and that something is not something that you can find outside of yourself. And that may not land, that may not be something that's easy to swallow, but that comes from an extreme disconnection from source, from divinity. And I will go more into this concept of divinity and source and the self and the ego in later episodes to come. I just felt that it was important to touch very broadly on what I've been observing over the past couple years or so, and what I've been observing in silence with myself. And one thing I want to leave you all with that I think is very important, and this is a lesson that I received in respect to relationships, is, I will pose the question. And it's a very simple question. And I'll leave you with that. And the question is, do you aspire to be the person that you want to be? I'll say it again. Do you aspire to be the person you want to be? No? Keep going. Keep doing the work. Keep finding joy. Keep loving yourself. Keep showing yourself compassion. Keep doing the things that you need to do for your creative health. Find something. Keep exercising. Drink some water with a pinch of salt in it because you don't want to be depleted of electrolytes, okay? That's a whole nother conversation about biohacking and fitness communities and health communities and nutrition and all that stuff. That's a whole nother topic. And I'm going to say I'm not a nutritionist, nothing like that. So whatever I share is going to be anecdotal and probably something to back it up. But I'm just letting you know right now that if you do not aspire to be the person that you want to be, probably be quiet. Okay? And I mean that in the most loving way ever, because I had to be quiet. And what I mean by, are you the person that you aspire to be, is very simple. That doesn't mean that you are fully healed. It doesn't mean that you are perfect. What it does mean is that you already recognize that you, that you are love, that you are divinity, and you're going to continue to evolve, and you're going to continue to grow, and you're going to continue to elevate, and you're going to continue to be more fully of that person. But you're already the person that you aspire to be. And that's something I learned in the relationship context when it comes to, and this is another conversation for another time, but when it comes to incompatibleness with someone who is not the person that they aspire to be, and you are. And then it can lead to caretaking, in a sense. It can lead to an imbalance in a relationship, especially if there are already other factors that is creating an imbalance in terms of whether someone is actually aligned to you or not. And so to me, that's a very fundamental imbalance, because now you are dealing with someone in a very disempowered state. And this doesn't mean that you have to go cold on someone. This doesn't mean you have to throw out the bathwater. But what I am saying is, in a relationship context, but you can also apply it elsewhere, is that really do some discernment as to whether you want to be in that role of being fully embodied in the fact that you are the person you aspire to be. I know you're with someone who's not quite there yet, and whether they have the capacity to be there. But then you also have to be very careful with this idea of potential. Again, another conversation for another day. This is everything I've been experiencing and evolving and learning and growing and healing from. And it has just been so tremendously powerful and potent. And I just want to share it with you guys. I just want to share it because it is so juicy. It is so juicy. And I'm coming from love. And I don't even have to explain that. Okay? And I know in the beginning I said there's no judgment. But I hope you can feel that. And if not, that's okay. Because I know. And do you see the difference? You're not sitting here trying to convince people of something. When you know, you move with that integrity of knowing. And it doesn't matter how people perceive it. You're not sitting there trying to control people's perception of you, perception of a situation, and perception of other people, and a perception of themselves. So I'll just leave it there. Are you the person that you aspire to be? No? Wonderful. Be quiet. Love yourself. Honor yourself. Move in integrity. Watch yourself. Listen to yourself. Keep going. We'll talk more about that later. If yes, love yourself. Keep going. Move with integrity. Etc., etc., etc. It's the same thing, but the state itself is very different. So, thank you guys for being here today on the You Are Limitless podcast. It feels so good to be back. I will say that this kind of came out of nowhere, but thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy that you tuned in. I'm so grateful to be back. I don't know when the next episode is going to come, but I know that it's coming, and I'm moving on my own time. And that's because I do not want to feed the system of having to constantly post, having to constantly be on alert. I got to post every week. I got to post every other week. I got to do this. I got to do that. What happened to just being here and now? What happened to it just being okay to go silent, to not be visible, and that not equate to missing out, losing people, etc.? That is exactly what I'm pushing against in terms of my own life, where I'm moving on my own accord. So who knows when the next episode is going to come out? We'll see. It might come out next week for all we know. But if it does, it's not going to be coming from it has to come out next week. No. It's going to be coming from the embodied state that I've been embodying. It's really that simple. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to share more of my journey. I'm so excited to be able to bring more information forward, to be able to help everyone who is listening and those who aren't even listening, because I understand that the ripple effect of everything that we do, or a lot of things that we do, knows no bounds, and it's not measurable by scientific measures at all. So also why I feel very called to just continue. Feel free to leave whatever you want to leave in the comments. Any thoughts on that question that I posed. Feel free to follow and subscribe. You don't have to. I don't really care about the algorithm. I just have a feeling it'll work out. But feel free to follow, subscribe, turn on notifications if you feel called to. And I'm so happy, like I said, to be here and to be sharing this. Take care. Sit with yourself. Love yourself. Move in integrity, whether people are looking or not. Much love.